Hello and welcome back to On Air with Dr. Pete. I'm your host, Dr. Pete Economo, and as always, it's a pleasure and thank you for being here. Today, we're joined by someone who has spent years helping navigate relationships, communication, and emotional connection with honesty, compassion, and insight. Aaron Gilbert is the founder of Boston Evening Therapy and respected voice in the world of couples, counseling, and modern relationships. So we are here today to talk about that. And what he does is helping couples reconnect, guiding individuals through life's challenges, and sharing practical wisdom about emotional health. So, Aaron, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dr. Pete. It's a pleasure to be with you.
So we often get asked to do more shows on couples counseling, especially lately. I think it's post-COVID, we see a lot of this. So I'm really excited. So share with a little background about yourself for our listeners.
Well, I started Boston Evening Therapy Associates 20 years ago, and we've grown into a Massachusetts-based practice. We serve clients across the state, and we have a large number of clinicians now with us with all different kinds of specializations, areas of interest and focus, but absolutely 100% dedicated to providing the best and most meaningful psychotherapy and counseling possible.
Amazing.
Yes, there has been, I have noticed a tremendous uptick in requests for couples therapy.
So what drew you to working? What drew couples?
Well, I work with a wide range of people, and relationships are often really primary in what people are looking to improve and looking to find more peace and understanding in their lives. So it's a natural kind of progression to, I think, individual therapy as well.
Yes.
I don't see them it's interesting. I've come over the years to not see them as being very distinct, very separate. I think that couples therapy is really, it's about the relationship, of course, but it's also, I think it's more about two individuals with individual expectations, individual needs, and individual strengths and weaknesses and fears and hopes. And so, we all bring ourselves to any relationship we're in, right? And of course, the most important relationship we'll ever have is the one we have with ourselves, because it most greatly impacts our quality of life. And it also most greatly impacts how we relate to others.
How do you think the modern life has affected relationships? Modern life, like social media, technology, all the things that's kind of changed over the 20 years that you've been in practice.
I think that there's maybe a lot more sort of expectation of kind of immediate gratification, or things should work out naturally, that there shouldn't need to be a lot of sacrifice or compromise necessarily. That I think social media clearly shows how everybody else is doing it right, and what's wrong with you that you're not doing it right as great as we are in our,
because my relationship is awesome, and I'm going to post my vacation. I'm going to post how much I love my partner, all that stuff.
Yeah, we renewed our vows in the south of France, and why aren't you doing the same thing? So I think there's a lot of that for sure.
What are some of the issues that you see? So, like, are there like specific issues that typical couples present with these days?
I think that the kind of joke I tell myself a little bit is, or sometimes to the couples too, is that I want to always be alert of this kind of framing where it's not going to be said this way, but just to make a point. This person is supposed to make me happy. I'm not happy. So what's wrong with them? I think that, it's usually kind of presented in the focus of poor communication or lack of trust or shared vision. But I do think that in working with couples, I try to focus in on what each individual needs, what each individual is lacking. And I also am curious with asking couples, what can they do for themselves to make the relationship better? Not necessarily what they need to change, but what perspective shift might they initiate without the need of the other person doing anything different to help make things better, to help make their sense of the relationship more solid, more healthy.
Is there a theoretical framework that you think about? I hear you talk a lot about the individual, so I keep thinking about EFT and wondering if there's like a model that you use.
Yeah, I like emotional freedom therapy. The idea that of looking inward and finding freedom within ourselves, and that is, I do believe in that quite a bit. Yeah, I think that I would say it's clear, largely a question of expectations. What exactly are you expecting? And I think that, as I say, that's the part of the joke, is like, you're supposed to make me happy. No, it's really not. I like to think of a great relationship as being like a, delicious kind of a great spice or sauce or something that's added to the entree, added to the meal, but it's not the meal itself. We all have a responsibility to, to be our best friend and to be our best support and to make ourselves as happy as possible. And, the person we're with, I think that the thing that I love about that is, maybe some people are listening to this and hearing that as well. That's kind of defeatist. That's kind of like, that's not a very high bar, and that's not expecting much of a relationship. I think the irony is that when you have fewer expectations,
Hmm.
of like, like, this person is supposed to make me happy. That's a pretty high expectation. If you don't have that expectation and it's much different, it's much more attainable, then you're much more able to find the joy in the small things, or in the limited times in which you feel completely in sync with this person.
Yeah.
If I'm looking for this person to give me everything I need, then I'm pretty much going to have the expectation that we're going to be right in sync all the time, or
Yeah.
almost all the time.
So
And that's a
yeah.
recipe for failure, because that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But if I don't have that level of expectation, and I know that I'm already able to give myself what I need, then even if we're in sync a minority of the time, that I can find the joy in that much more.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you focus a lot on expectations, kind of syncing people up together. One
Yeah.
of one of the things for EFT, emotionally focused therapy, from Sue Johnson, kind of thinking about like attachment styles and some of that type of stuff. So it sounds like I, it brings a question to mind. So do you think people can change? Do you think people have the capacity to change within a relationship?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's critical. I mean, I think that it's necessary, and I think that that first idea is to be able to understand how they can change in relationship to themselves,
Mm-hmm.
to each person, to themselves. And as that change happens, I think change in the relationship will naturally ensue. I think that, because working backwards, if you don't, I mean, if there's no change within me, but we agree to change certain dynamics in the relationship. I'll do this differently, you do that differently. You say this when you come home from work and not that. If we make these little behavioral adjustments, but don't make a change internally within each of the individuals,
Mm-hmm.
then that's not, I don't think, going to have to work
Yeah.
over the. It's going to fail, because we're not looking. Yeah, we're looking for a change in how we experience the world and ourselves
Yeah.
within the context of the relationship.
I always find that like listening is a skill and something that I work on a lot with the clients that I work with. And I wonder, like, what do you think about listening as it pertains to working with couples, for one couple to the other, or just even the role of the clinician that's kind of help navigate the couple?
Yeah, I think um, that's a great point, and I do think that in general, in therapy, listening is the most important piece. And again, I'm sort of putting myself in the shoes of somebody in your audience, and they might say, well, yeah, duh. I mean, that's listening. That's not that. What is that?
Yeah.
What's the significance of that? But, there's listening and there's listening. I mean, I think the greatest thing that can come out of therapy generally, not just couples, but is to have a person feel that they've truly been deeply and fully heard, that their story, their perspective has been fully taken in and understood and been considered deeply in a non-judgmental way. And that's and that's where healing really starts. And I guess you can model it in couples therapy as well. You can having the one of the side of the couple experiencing you listening to them for the
Sure.
first time and hearing their story, even if you've heard it a million times,
Yeah.
but having you hear it perhaps for the first time, giving it framing it in a new way and with a new perspective
Yeah.
can be illuminating, I think.
Yeah, it has a big impact on, that's why it could be such a small thing. So I love to hear you say that. One of the things we like to do for our listeners is to give them some kind of tools or tips. I wonder if you have any small practices that couples could work on to feel more connected.
Well, again, I guess I'm a bit of a broken record on this, but I think the first thing that I would say to each person who is considering couples therapy is to have the relief immediately to know that as they're working on themselves, they're working on the couple, on the relationship. So that, like, if you have a couples therapy session coming up for the first time and it's coming up in a week, you might ask yourself, what can I do for myself to put me in the best place to benefit from this session?
Yeah.
Not like is my partner going to do anything positive so that we can go into this in a good frame of mind, or what can I ask her or he to do to give us a better chance to have this work,
Yeah.
what can I give to myself? How can I increase my own emotional well-being, 10% in this week?
What would be some strategies around that? Like, so for me, it would be like some kind of mindfulness thing, some self care, some strategy that helps you improve your well being. Cause ideally, the more my well being is improved as an individual, that impacts my, the couple. So do you help people kind of determine what things might improve that?
I think, yeah, my suggestion would be, and it sort of comes individual by individual, but like examining what are the focus points in my life that I know to be genuinely good. How can I accentuate those? What are the things? What are my values? What do I think are the things that make my life meaningful? What are the things that I like best about myself, or what are the things that I know to be healthy in my
Mm-hmm.
life? Identifying and that can be for different people, that can be different things. Like it might be I know going to the gym is a good thing for me. I
Mm-hmm.
know that taking a hike in the sunshine with my dog is a good thing for me. I don't know how important it is in the scheme of life. Am I saying it's more important than my marriage? No, I'm not saying that, but I'm saying that I know it is a positive for me. Let me make sure to do these positive things.
Exactly.
I may also know that the way I talk to myself in my mind is can be very negative.
Yeah.
And I know that puts me in a bad frame of mind. Can I address that?
Yeah.
Can I consciously do less of that? Can I change some of that narrative this week?
Yeah, I love that idea. One of the things that comes to mind for me as you're saying that is people probably listening at home think if they argue, it's like a bad thing, or I see that a lot in my work. I wonder what you do to like help people find healthy ways to navigate disagreements in partnerships.
Yeah, I think that yeah, well, that's tough, and that gets into the place where and there's two different things in couples therapy too. There's the aspirational things, like how can we make this better, and then there's the crisis things, like where we're in this horrible fight, and we just need to find a way to have détente or to a little bit of cooling down.
Sure.
So it gets to be, if it gets to be sort of close to a crisis, then you're in damage control.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that, again, a way to think about conflict is that to remind ourselves that, like, all I'm responsible for in this conflict is what I bring to it,
Mm-hmm.
how I deal with it, how I respond to it.
Some Gottman method stuff, like where you kind of use a lot of first person, making sure people identify their role in the dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I am not responsible for what comes back. And how can I come away from this feeling good about myself?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes going into a conflict, or as you're feeling a conflict emerge, there's an immediate sense of, like, how can this come out that I either win, quote unquote win,
Right.
or get the other person to understand and agree with what I'm saying, get them to see the error of their ways, outcome focused.
Yeah. Too
And
much. Yeah.
you have no control over that. You have
Yeah.
no control over that. So I think a better way is to come away with saying, like, how can I come away from this feeling that I comported myself as best as I could? I brought my best self to this as much as I could. Obviously, we always come up short of that. But that's our mission. It's not to get the other person to change their mind.
Yeah.
Although that feels like what needs to happen. I need to prove she's wrong. I need to teach her so that she understands. I need to have her have an epiphany that, like, you know what?
Yeah.
I didn't think of it
like an Oprah aha moment. It's like, no, that doesn't always happen. One of the things from grad school and one of the things I do in the classroom training people in psychology is, couples counseling historically was seen as successful if couples remained or if there was improvement. But a lot of times I think the biggest misconception is that some successful couples counseling could be helping people split up in a healthy manner. And I wonder if you would agree with that.
I would agree with that. I would agree with that. Certainly, generally. On the other hand, I do think that a lot of relationships can be salvaged with some of the changes we've been talking about, because I think that with managing expectations,
Mm-hmm.
with understanding our individual role, because what you don't want to do is say, okay, let's agree to split up. I mean, sometimes, of course, you absolutely agree with you. Sometimes, of course, that is definitely the right course of action. But if people split up without internalizing their own role in things and their own role in making themselves happy, then there's a high likelihood this is just going to repeat in a future relationship.
So you still have to work on that. So even though, that's a really good point, that it's not going to just go away in the next relationship if you're going to help somebody kind of split up in a healthy manner.
It's not like you don't want a person coming away with the only thing is like, oh, I just need to find a better person.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
This person just wasn't quite good enough. They were good, but they just weren't quite good enough. So the next person's got to be better.
It's like child counseling in a way where they're like, parents drop them off and say, fix them. It's like, no, it's the whole system together.
Yeah.
Aaron, thank you so much for this. I think this was really helpful for people to learn a little bit about couples counseling. I know that we like to bring topics that are really relatable, and today's world is full of challenges. So where can people learn more about you and your practice that want to find out about that?
Yeah, we have a very active website. We serve Massachusetts, but of course, anybody anywhere in the world, can come to our website. We have a lot of good material. It's bostoneveningtherapy.com. And anyone can also reach me directly if they'd like at Aaron, Aaron, at bostoneveningtherapy.com.
Wonderful. We'll have all of that in the show notes. So, Aaron, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Dr. Pete. It's been a pleasure to talk with you.
And thank you again for listening at home. We appreciate all your feedback and keep those topic ideas coming. We will see you here next week. And until then, spread a little kindness and stay well.